My husband Julian told our friends I was cheating him on rent and trying to trap him through the lease office. He even pushed a little apology form across a counter and said I needed to sign it before anyone would believe me. But the lease office record later showed something simple and ugly. Julian had leaked my lawyer meeting, added his sister to our file, and used a hotel receipt to hide where the rent money went. That is the part everyone skipped when they called me dramatic. The night it started, I was standing outside the lease office with our shared keys in my hand, still wearing the brown sweater I had put on for a normal errand. Julian walked away from the service window like the answer had already been decided. Behind him, Tessa, the assistant manager, looked at me once and then looked down at the file. She knew more than she wanted to say. I did not raise my voice. I did not chase him. I only noticed the small key ring badge on the folder, the one that meant someone had accessed our account after hours. Julian said, softly enough for only me to hear, "You should have kept your lawyer out of our life." I had told exactly one person about that lawyer meeting, my attorney. So when Julian said it, I felt the betrayal before I understood the proof. I walked out because Mara, my friend, was waiting by the door, and she gave me the one look that meant, "Do not sign anything while you are shaking." 2 nights later, Julian wore that same calm face in the hallway outside our friend Lee's rehearsal dinner. I had not wanted to go, but he had told everyone I was refusing to cooperate with a simple lease update, and staying home would have made his version easier. The hallway was bright, loud, and full of people balancing drinks and gift bags. Julian stood near the glass doors with his slate blue jacket buttoned, holding the fake apology form like it was a peace offering. He said, "Nora, just sign that you misunderstood the rent arrangement, and we can all move on." The sentence sounded kind. The paper did not. It said I had created unnecessary legal pressure, refused fair rent, and embarrassed him by contacting professionals. I had contacted a lawyer because we were newly separated, and I wanted to know how to leave without losing my deposit. That was all. But Julian kept his voice sweet, so the crowd heard patience from him and silence from me. His sister Erin watched from the doorway with the pleased expression of someone who had already won. Mara stood behind me in a burgundy coat, close enough that I could feel her stillness. I slid the form back across the little cocktail table. I said, "I will not sign a lie." Julian smiled wider as if my refusal helped him. He told the room, "See, this is what I have been dealing with." A few people looked embarrassed for me. One person looked away. One person, Mara, did not. The first real clue did not arrive like a dramatic confession. It arrived on a public garden path the morning after the dinner, while wet leaves stuck to the concrete, and I was trying to breathe without replaying every stare. Mara met me there because she did not want to talk on the phone. She had a screenshot printed on cheap paper and folded twice. It was a call log from the lease office number, not private data or anything illegal, just a basic list Tessa had handed her when Mara asked why a service note had appeared after office hours. The note showed a call to Julian at 8:41 p.m. the night after my lawyer meeting. Under it, someone had typed, "Resident request, add emergency contact Erin Vale, resident says legal matter pending." I had never requested that. I had never asked to add Erin. I had never told the lease office a legal matter was pending. Mara said, "This is weak by itself. He can say you forgot. He can say the office typed it wrong. But he knew your lawyer meeting before you told him, and that note proves somebody put it in writing." I stared at the paper until the words stopped blurring. It was not enough to win anything. It was enough to stop doubting myself. Julian had not guessed. He had not been magically perceptive. He had heard private information and moved fast, and the lease record had caught the edge of it. By Saturday, Erin had moved the pressure from the hallway to my errands. She found me at the bus stop shelter, where rain ran down the glass panels and made everyone's reflection look tired. She did not shout. People who want an audience often do not need to. She held her phone in one hand and the ring box from my dresser in the other, because Julian had asked her to return old sentimental items in public. She said, "You are making him look abusive just because he wants fairness." I told her I did not want the ring box and I did not want a scene. She stepped closer and said, "Then sign the apology. You know he was only protecting himself after that lawyer thing." I had never used the phrase lawyer thing with Erin. I looked past her shoulder and saw Ben, one of Julian's oldest friends, standing near the shelter post with his umbrella half closed. His face changed. He had heard it too. Erin realized what she had said and tried to smooth it over, but Ben spoke first. "We were told about the lawyer call last week," he said quietly. "Julian said Nora threatened him with it." That did not clear me. It did something smaller and more important. It proved the group knew more than they admitted, and it gave me one witness who was no longer pretending this was just a misunderstanding. At the first mediation appointment, I stopped trying to prove my character and started testing the dates. The table had one empty chair because Julian arrived late on purpose. The mediator, Ms. Albright, had a laptop open, a box of tissues nobody touched, and a copy of our lease printed in a legal folder. Julian came in smiling, apologized to the mediator for the drama, and told her I had been confused about money since the separation. I asked only one question. Can we read the account notes in order? Julian's smile thinned. Ms. Albright did not know us, so she had no reason to protect either version. She read the first note, my email asking for a copy of the lease. The second note, Julian's call adding Aaron as an emergency contact and mentioning a legal matter. The third note, Julian's request to split a penalty fee because he said I had refused rent. The order mattered. The legal note came before I had told Julian I had emailed the office. It came before he claimed I threatened him. It came before the apology form existed. Julian leaned forward and said the office must have typed the notes out of order. Ms. Albright did not argue. She simply marked the page and said, then we will need the office to verify the timestamp. For the first time, Julian was not performing for friends. He was answering a record. The next contradiction was the hotel receipt. I found it on our old entry table when I went to pick up winter coats, sitting under a property notice like Julian had forgotten paper still tells time. It was not a romantic smoking gun. It was simpler than that. It was a 2-night hotel charge from the same week he told everyone I had skipped rent and forced him to cover the whole apartment. The card number was from our joint account. The date was the night he claimed he had slept at his brother's because I made home unsafe. When I sent a photo of it to Ms. Albright, Julian called me within 6 minutes. That speed told me the receipt scared him more than my feelings ever had. He said the hotel was necessary because I had made the apartment hostile. Then, in the same breath, he said the charge did not matter because he had paid most of the rent anyway. 2 different stories, 1 call. I wrote both down. Mara sat across from me in her gray scarf, saying nothing until I finished. Then she said, do not debate the hotel. Put it next to the lease note. She was right. Alone, the receipt was a fight about money. Next to the lease note, it became a pattern. Julian created a private threat, spent shared money, then made me look expensive and unstable in public. The third source came from a place I never expected, a restaurant host stand. Ben called me because he remembered Julian bragging about a reservation the week everything started. The restaurant kept an old-fashioned reservation book because the owner hated relying only on screens. I went there with Mara, not to make a scene, but to ask for a copy of my own card charge because my joint account had covered part of the table. The host, a young man with careful manners, turned the book around and showed us Julian's name, the time, and the party size. It was the same evening Julian said he was at the apartment trying to fix rent because I had panicked him with legal threats. He had not been fixing anything. He had been at dinner, telling a smaller version of the story before it grew teeth. The host also remembered Aaron joking that the lease office already knew about the lawyer. He did not know why that mattered until my face changed. He offered to write a short note saying what he remembered and what the reservation book showed. I did not cry in front of him. I waited until I reached my car. It was not the restaurant that hurt. It was realizing how many people had heard Julian's version before I even knew there was a version to fight. After the reservation note, Julian tried to pull me back into a private conversation. He waited on a quiet street near the apartment and spoke in the soft voice he used when he wanted to sound wounded. Rain had stopped, and the pavement reflected the porch lights in broken lines. He said we could still keep things civil if I stopped collecting scraps like a detective. I had the shared keys in my pocket and the legal folder under my arm. I told him the condition was simple: no apology form, no private meeting without a witness, and no more friend group explanations from him unless the lease office record was corrected first. Julian's face went still. He said, "You are going to make everyone hate me." That was the first honest sentence he had said in weeks. He did not say I was wrong. He said there would be consequences for him. I told him I was done protecting him from consequences he created. Mara stood half a block away, close enough to see if I needed help and far enough to let me own the moment. That was ally-protected patience. I was not alone, and I was not rushing. I was simply making the next step impossible to twist. If Julian wanted public innocence, he would have to survive a public record. The confrontation happened at Lee's kitchen table, not because I planned it that way, but because Julian kept using social rooms as shields. Lee asked me to come by and clear the air. When I arrived, Julian was already there with Aaron and 2 friends, which told me clearing the air meant cornering me. Bills, keys, and half-finished tea sat on the table like normal life had been interrupted by paperwork. Julian started with the same line. I had made rent impossible, dragged lawyers into a simple separation, and refused to apologize. I did not answer with feelings. I placed 3 copies on the table. The lease record showed Julian's call and Aaron's unauthorized contact. The hotel receipt showed joint money spent the week he accused me of skipping rent. The restaurant note showed he had been telling the lawyer story before I ever mentioned it to the group. Ben, pale and uncomfortable, said, He told us she threatened him before she had even spoken to him. That was the witness-breaking rank in front of the same people who had judged me. The room did not explode. It shrank. Julian tried to talk over the record, but the proof was now too simple. He said I cheated him on rent. The lease record showed he changed the file. The hotel receipt showed where the money went. You would think proof ends pressure. It does not. It changes the shape of pressure. At Lee's wedding venue side room, Erin pulled me aside while the band tested speakers in the main hall. She said the group was willing to accept that mistakes were made, but I had to stop using words like leaked and unauthorized because those words made Julian look calculated. I almost laughed. Those words were the only reason the truth made sense. Without them, the story became fog again. Erin wanted a soft correction. Everyone misunderstood, nobody meant harm, Nora and Julian were both emotional. That version helped Julian because it made the fake apology form seem like normal conflict instead of a tool. Mara stood near the door, deep burgundy sleeve against gray wallpaper, watching Erin try to turn exact proof into vague peace. I said, the correction needs to say Julian told people I cheated him on rent. The lease record showed he changed the file. The hotel receipt showed he spent joint money while blaming me. Erin said I was being vindictive. I said I was being clear. Then I opened the side room door and walked back into the hallway before she could make my refusal sound like another scene. A vague apology would have made everyone comfortable. A clear correction made the lie expensive. The practical step came in the mail, because real consequences often arrive without music. I opened the corrected notice beside the mailbox cluster outside the apartment building, under a hard fluorescent light that made every line easy to read. The lease office had updated the file. Erin was removed as an unauthorized contact. The account note now stated that I had not requested the legal entry, had not agreed to the penalty split, and had disputed the after-hours change. The fee Julian wanted me to pay was withdrawn pending review. Tessa had included a short statement saying the original note had been entered after a call from Julian, not from me. That sentence did not fix my marriage. It fixed the record. That mattered more than another argument. I sent a copy to Ms. Albright and one to Lee because Julian had not just hurt me privately. He had used the group as a wall. Lee called me that night and said she had asked everyone to take down the posts and messages calling me manipulative. It was not a grand apology. It was a community correction, and it was enough for me to know the lie no longer had an audience. Julian texted me only once after that. Was this worth it? I looked at the corrected record and did not answer. The last time I saw Julian during the separation process, we were at the parking garage elevator bank after hours. The place smelled like rainwater, concrete, and old paper. I had the corrected lease record, the hotel receipt, and the fake apology form in one folder. He had nothing but the tired version of the face that used to make me apologize first. He said, "You could have just talked to me." I said, "I did, you turned it into a file." That was the real ending, not revenge. Not shouting, a corrected file, a withdrawn fee, a group of friends who could no longer say they did not know. Mara waited by the elevator, giving me the same steady distance she had given me at the beginning. I placed the fake apology form on top of the folder and wrote one sentence across it for myself. I will not sign a lie to make a liar comfortable. Then I zipped my suitcase, handed in the shared keys, and stepped into the elevator alone. Julian lost the audience he built. I lost the habit of explaining pain to people who had already chosen a version. The lease record did not give me my marriage back. It gave me the clean edge I needed to leave it. I kept one copy of the record in my glove box for a month, not because I expected another fight, but because my body needed proof nearby while my mind learned it was over. When Lee later sent the corrected message to the group, she did not dress it up. She wrote that Julian had blamed me for rent, that the lease office record did not support him, and that the earlier apology demand should never have been sent. Several people answered with little careful apologies. I did not collect them like prizes. I only noticed that no one asked me to comfort Julian anymore. That was the quietest consequence and the one I needed most. The community correction did not make everyone brave. It made the lie inconvenient. Sometimes, that is enough to let a person walk out with both hands free.